What's up, Sideline Sports family? What's up, everybody at home tuning in on a Friday night to another episode of the Gauntlet, where we go over everything in the NFL and bring you guys the best fun twists as possible. So we got the crew in the building. We actually have a new crew because Will is here again. He says that we left him at Cancun because the last time he was on the Cancun episode, which actually took place last summer. And the funny thing about that story is, JJ was not on that episode. Just like I'm sure the people at home, I know people in the comments are going to be like, "Where's JJ?" Because JJ's a fan favorite of this show.
He's so traded, man. Last
but
time I checked,
it's a funny story because Will on that episode said that he's going to replace JJ, which he did on that episode, and he replaced JJ on this episode. So. Seems like every time Will comes to the show, JJ's gonna replace. So don't shoot the messenger, but I'm just saying.
Did we wear Hawaiian shirts for that Cancun episode?
We did with hats and something.
Yes, that was one of the funnest episodes of all time.
I can't believe I almost forgot about that. That was a good time.
Dude, you should have seen us on it was Jay and I, and we did Basket Bros, and we said because Jacob went to the Braves game, he went to Baseball Bros.
Yeah,
Baseball Bros.
that was last week. I turn my light back on. Yeah, that was last week.
Doesn't quite roll off the tongue like Basket Bros. Weren't you the one that came up with that?
Is Basket Bros ever going to get a logo? Find out on the next episode.
We do.
Dragon Ball Z, because you guys have had a show for over a year and you still don't have a logo.
We have a logo.
We have one. It's just not uploaded. I got it made for free.
Uploaded. What are you guys doing over there? Okay. Anyway, guys, we gotta get into some stuff tonight. So you guys know that normally we start this segment, we start the show up, and what's going on? Grizz, glad to see you tonight, brother. But as I was saying, usually we start off the show with Sports Moron of the Week. But I decided this week for Sports Moron, I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to see who you guys would rank as the greatest sports morons of all time. So, Will, since you're our guest, I'm going to go to you first. Who would you have as your sports moron of all time?
Oh, man. The Atlanta Falcons blowing a 28-3 lead is my sports moron number one because I'm a Panthers fan and I don't like the Falcons or the Patriots in that Super Bowl. So I have to decide the team I hate or the team I hate the most. Also because they're in my division, so I chose to go for the Patriots, even though I don't like the Patriots. But blowing a 28-3 lead and having a great lead, you end the half with a pick six to end the first half. Come on, man.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, Falcons blowing a lead, that was definitely embarrassing. Pretty sure at the end of the third quarter or whenever it was, when they were up 28-3, pretty sure most of the people had assumed at that point that they were going to cash in the game. But the Falcons are one of those franchises that you call them like a snake-bitten franchise. People like the Falcons. People like Minnesota Vikings. These are the teams that no matter what they do to get themselves in a great position, you can just count on them.
Same with the Bills. Same with the Bills, unfortunately.
Till further notice, yeah. Okay, I guess we're going to go to Jay next. Jay, who's your sports moron of all time?
Dom's back.
So as far as sports moron of all time, and I know we've covered our share of the Ben Simmonses and as of late Dylan Brooks. Maybe they should set up a one of those, amateur boxing showdowns that we saw Frank Gore and Chad Ochocinco do, so they can battle out to be who's the sports moron heavyweight of all time. But I'm gonna go ahead and JT, you gave a great idea. I'm going to bring it to my front office for the Houston Texans. Now, mind you, they from this past draft, you would think they're on their way up, but the jury's still out front because we got to see how next year turns out. But I mean, come on now, okay? Jack Easterby, the man really responsible. I keep saying it. Bill O'Brien was a fall guy. The man really responsible for getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins. Then there was the whole debacle with Watson and their whole involvement with that. It's come to find out, guys really got a problem, but now y'all are covering for him and such. So yeah, but also of all time, because Bob McNair was a racist. He was, Cal, probably not too far from him. I mean, remains to be seen. But there have been some questionable moves throughout the years. Now, there have been some good moves, you know what I mean? But I think it's fair to say that some of the good is – now, I will say this much, though. Not drafting Reggie Bush in 2006 did not come back and bite them like people thought that it would. Getting Mario Williams actually was the catalyst for the defense of the early 2010s and throughout the 2010s that people have come to know from the Texans, spawning acts like J.J. Watt, Brian Cushing, Jonathan Joseph, Kareem Jackson, and Daniel Manning and such. And then you're starting to see some of the pieces kind of come together, right now. They're young. But I say all that to say this, until we see otherwise, I've got my own front office as sports moron of the decade, unless we win a Super Bowl, and then we could probably wipe the slate clean.
Of the ever.
Dom, we'll go to you next. Your sports moron of all time.
I have two. I'll be quick, and I can't choose because they're just. This is some all-time stuff. For me, it's a tie between late stage advanced senility Al Davis and 2000s and beyond Jerry Jones. When you talk about all-time moronery, ineptitude, horrible drafting, free agent signings, not being able to get out of your own way, not putting people in place to do the things that you can no longer do. And you've seen what it's turned into. The Dallas Cowboys have not done a thing this century. What do they got? 3 playoff wins after winning how many Super Bowls in the 90s? 3. I believe they had as many Super Bowls in the 90s that they have playoff wins this century. And that rests squarely on Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones loves the big deal. He gave it to Ezekiel Elliott. He gave it to Amari Cooper, although that one I don't think was as bad. And then that was maybe the only one in amongst all of those in the last several years where A, he probably deserved it, and B, they cut ties with him sooner than they should have. And then most recently, although it's been a couple of years, you got the Dak Prescott deal. And I know there's people like, oh, it's the cost of doing business, and, you can't lowball guys. I would have lowballed the – I'm going to say it. I would have lowballed the shit out of Dak. Like, this is what you think you're worth. This is what you're actually worth. So what you're going to get is going to be over here.
Yeah.
Not over here. I mean, shout out to Dak Prescott's agent for just finessing. Not that it's hard to finesse Jerry Jones. And then Al Davis. What can you say about Al Davis?
Just win, baby.
Drafted a kicker in the first round. Drafted Darius Hayward-Bay in the top 5. Henry Ruggs. Alex Leatherwood. Like,
nobody could have predicted Henry Ruggs, though.
Yeah.
Oh, I could. What do you mean?
You knew Henry Ruggs was going to get a DUI and kill a bunch of people?
The fastest receiver that can't catch or run a route, and it's Henry Ruggs. And now Henry Ruggs is in prison.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you didn't know he was going to end up getting a DUI and doing all that.
It was a terrible pick before the DUI, though. An absolutely terrible.
He was the first receiver taken in that draft. He went before Judy and Lamb, I believe, and Jefferson.
And Darius Hayward-Bay was the first receiver taken in that draft. However, Darius Hayward-Bay, I will give him his credit because that dude at least worked hard and carved out, and like that dude ended up with like a 12-year NFL career. It wasn't as a wide receiver, but he was really good on special teams. That's not anything to be, lauded about when you're a top 10 pick.
I mean, if you're in the league, you're in the league. So
exactly.
Yeah. And and to be fair, had Jerry Jones not given Dak Prescott that big deal, because pretty much he painted him in the corner. But had he not given him that big deal, and he got his deal, about maybe 3 years ago now, 4 years ago, the team that James is wearing would have won the division 4 years in a row.
Well,
Dak would have walked.
I mean, you have to give Jerry Jones some credit because he tried.
No, you don't. For what?
Yes, you listen to what I'm about to say. Listen to what I'm about to say, though. If you remember the Dak situation, it was a long, drawn-out situation. They offered him a contract which was like $34 million a year. And Dak was like, oh, that was right after Carson Wentz got his extension from Philly. And he was like, no, you know what? I'm worth more than Carson Wentz. I'm worth more money than this and blah, blah, blah. So he didn't take the $34 million. He ended up getting like 40 a year or something.
4 for 160.
So, I mean, Jerry tried to pay him and like get the good deal, but it just didn't work out. So
yeah,
I can't really put all the blame on him for that. He did try, but Dak and his agent, they did a great job. So you got to give it to him.
Dak was already entering the, I think it was the 2018 season. Dak was already, being looked at for his big contract, right? And then the Cowboys, bang, 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 started off 3-0. They beat the Dolphins, they beat the Giants, and they beat they was Redskins, now Commanders. Okay, people were saying he needed to sign then, but he listened to others that said no, keep playing ball and drive your price up. And then what happened? Dak tanked. Because the back half of the Cowboys schedule was backloaded. They had like Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago. Like,
and we
they
all know
made
about that
Trubisky look like
again.
Vic. It was crazy. But what he should have did, where he messed up at, was he should have signed his deal after week 3. He would have gotten more money than what he would have signed for. Instead of just, listening to everybody, drop your price up, and then your schedule's backloaded, and then you start to tank. Now you got the money you got, which is still good. But man, you could have been going for like 45 a year or something like that. You know what I mean? So you gotta learn how to. They say it all the time in business, right? Strike while the iron's hot. I know it's a bit of an old school term, but it's still applicable nowadays. But not only is that for businesses, it's for yourself. You know what I mean? JT, you say all the time, market yourself, right? We all believe in that. When you hot, jump.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah.
People talking about all these players getting overpaid. Listen, I get it. I don't think that every player should be getting like all these crazy contracts. I think at some point there needs to be a stopping point, but there's not really anything that can be done about it. This is the direction the NFL has gone to, where all these players are going to be getting paid the big money.
Right.
So whatever player gets paid, Lamar Jackson, the last quarterback to get paid. So by nature, it's going to drive the price up for Joe Burrow, for Justin Herbert, for whoever's going to be the next quarterback to be paid. So that's just
I think Burrow's going to be the smart one and take less money to try to keep that team together.
Well,
I've had that feeling for like a year. I don't think Herbert will, and I wouldn't either for that.
Joe Burrow's
franchises.
The only guy currently in the game that's better than Joe Burrow is Patrick Mahomes. So I can guarantee you, unless Cincinnati is stupid, they're going to give Joe what he wants. So I'm sure
they will. I'm just saying. I think
I'm not sure what they're going to do though, money wise, because the way that the Eagles set up their contract, they spread a lot of money out and they converted a lot of the money to bonuses, which will give them more freedom to do stuff. So, but the Bengals are not really an organization that's ran very, very well, to be honest.
At all. They're a poverty franchise too.
We're gonna have to see how it plays out. If I'm Cincinnati, I gotta pay Joe Burrow, but you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and both of them, you could argue, could be a number 1 receiver in the league. But let's be honest, they drafted Jamar with a top 5 pick. They're gonna pay Jamar. If I'm Cincy, I'm trading T. Higgins, and I'm trying to get
easily. You got
it. I would do. But anyway, guys, before I forget, I have to do my sports morons of all time. This is very hard for me to decide, but I narrowed it down between 2 candidates. My first candidate is going to go to Skip Bayless. And Skip has said some of the most ridiculous things in his career. And you know what? I'm not hating on the man, because I think that he's done a great job to get where he's at. So at the end of the day, it's like I said, don't hate the player, hate the game. But still, bro, I cannot stress this enough. Skip Bayless' obsession with LeBron James is one of the most disgusting things that I've ever seen in my life. You're talking about a guy that set his alarm for 2:30 in the morning and took a picture of his alarm clock that said like 2:33 a.m. Took a picture, posted on Instagram, said, "Hey LeBron, are you up? I just finished my workout. Have you done your workout yet?" Like the fact that he sets his alarm for this early in the morning and the first thing that's on his mind is LeBron James, not his family, not his wife, not how he's, I gotta get a cup of coffee. His mind just goes straight to LeBron James. And secondly,
he probably has a coffee cup with LeBron's face on it. And he probably, when he looks at sleep on the ceiling, is a poster of LeBron James, and he touches it. He's like, "Good night, see you tomorrow."
I don't know about that. LeBron lives rent free in his head, and I just can't get over the time when he was on back when he was with ESPN doing First Take. Johnny Manziel was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and he goes on TV and he says, someday Johnny Manziel is going to be a greater star to the city of Cleveland than LeBron James. And that's probably the worst thing that I've ever heard someone say.
He also said not too much time later.
Ever been to Cleveland? You try being sober in Cleveland.
Skip Bayless also said that RG3 would have a better career than Andrew Luck.
Yeah. So Skip, he said a lot of ridiculous stuff, but I think that thing with Johnny Manziel will be a greater star in the city of Cleveland than LeBron James. That has to take the cake for me, guys. But we are going to move on now. We missed this from last week, but DeAndre Hopkins has been released by the Arizona Cardinals. Before we get into this, I have a special guest that's going to be.
Speaking of poverty fringe,
Raphael is here.
Raphael.
He guests on JB's show quite a bit. What's up, Raphael?
What's going on, gentlemen?
Thanks for joining us tonight. So, as I was saying,
what are we doing?
DeAndre Hopkins released by the Cardinals. So they're unable to get any deals done. They're unable to get a trade. So Raphael, right now, who are the favorites to land DeAndre Hopkins? What are these odds looking like?
Well, we had to make the numbers just because of what Joe Public, which I mean the bettors that pay my bills and the lights that stay on in Vegas that are always wrong. That's why the lights are always on in Vegas 365 days a year. They bet the Chiefs like there's no tomorrow. And let's face it, if you know what the Kansas City Chiefs payroll looks like, there's no way that Hop will want to take a contract with Chiefs just on how much they can willing to pay him. A lot of money coming in. The Cowboys were at 4-1. I said Chiefs are favored at plus 250. Buffalo Bills, they don't have the payroll to pay D-Hop 3-1. There's teams I would say look for, like the Patriots at 7-1, Baltimore 7-1. Teams like that. I'm hearing the New York Giants at 10-1. It could be a nice bet. Look for something in that atmosphere. But if you think D-Hop is going to come to your team and win your ship, then I have some snow from Alaska that I would like to sell for you guys.
Wouldn't it be sand from Alaska?
So, Will, if you had to guess, where do you think DeAndre ends up?
I don't know how much money they have to play with, but I would love to see him with the Jets. Just imagine. You got Garrett Wilson as your second receiver, and you got D-Hop as your number one, maybe two. I know he's not as good as he used to be. He's injury prone now, but like somebody Garrett Wilson can learn under. Plus, you have Aaron Rodgers, who's an MVP caliber quarterback. You have you're gonna have a healthy Breece Hall in the backfield, and you have a good defense. So I personally think the Jets should go after him. Not saying Garrett Wilson's bad number one, but someone to help mentor Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. Okay. Not a bad pick.
Jets 12-1 for him to go there.
Okay.
Dom, what about you? If you had to pick a team for DeAndre Hopkins, who are you going with?
I mean, if we're talking best chances or best fit, that's kind of two different conversations. I actually like what Will was saying. I like him with the Jets. As far as him mentoring Garrett Wilson, I don't think I want DeAndre Hopkins mentoring any of my young receivers because I don't really look at him as a mentor type guy. but he would definitely be a dynamic piece to add to the lineup. Buffalo, I could see as being a nice fit as well, but I swear to God, if I don't know the GM's name in Buffalo, but I would like to personally sit down, have dinner with him, ring back, and tell him to get a freaking running back before he kills Josh Allen. So I don't see him in Buffalo, although it'd be an interesting idea. Something fits as well. I could see that as being a good fit. Say what you want about D-Hop. There's been many, problem. I can't even say child because he's an older dude, but players with, questionable, whatever you want to call it. And, people will fall in line for Bill Belichick. Like Raphael said, is he a championship piece? Does he bring you a championship by adding him to your roster? No. A wide receiver never does. But, yeah, I think one of the – the Giants is very interesting as well because they could really use him. So I would say one of the 3 New York teams or the Patriots.
That's why if I was a team that's, like I said, I don't think any of these playoff caliber Super Bowl risen teams that maybe could win a ship gets them, but I would look at 2 teams, Detroit Lions and the Carolina Panthers.
I would love them here.
Those are the 2 teams. Like I said, he's not going to Kansas City. He's not going to Buffalo. He's not going to those teams that the ship horizon. And Buffalo's looking for a running back before they have another wide receiver.
Okay. All right. Well, Jay,
he's not.
I guess we'll go to you. Former Texan. Where does he end up?
So, article came out yesterday in the Houston Chronicle that said DeAndre Hopkins would consider a return to Houston, seeing as C.J. Stroud has been pretty much all but announced as QB1. You got a budding offense there. You still got Dameon Pierce coming back and everything. Michi's coming back, having recovered from leukemia, so he'll be great. He being the veteran on there, I'm not expecting him to mentor or anything like that, but just that veteran presence would be helpful. Also, and hear me out, but I kind of like him in New Orleans. As a two-man receiver team with Chris Olave as well. And you have Derek Carr. Granted, he's no Breeze. He's no anything like that. Him and Garoppolo are kind of the same, But you never know what could happen out there with a receiver like D-Hop and a receiver like Olave.
Well, what about the exuberance of Slant Boy?
Say it again?
Slant Boy. Michael Thomas.
What about the exuberance of Slant Boy?
Thomas is all but written out of New Orleans. Like I haven't even paid attention to dude in like 2-3 years or whatever. But anyway, ever since he got his money and he won the receiving title, and then Thomas has been a seesaw. Right now, like if he went to New Orleans, it would be D-Hop and Olave. And with those two, it could. One second. For those 2, it could possibly force Derek Carr to step up and be a little bit better. But I do like him there. And then probably my third team in mind would be one of the New York teams. I'm probably going to say the Giants. Although, actually, you know what? No, I'll take it back. I'm going to say the Jets. Because Daniel Jones is still going to find a way to rush for nearly 1,000 yards. That's not exactly putting the ball as many times in D-Hop's hands. So I'm going to say the Jets for my third team.
I have one question for Raphael. What do the odds say on the Rams? Because I know you have Stafford and you could put him as a number 2 behind Cup.
We have him at 20. We have him at the 25-1. Rams have payroll issues, and the Saints. There's no way the Saints can afford. The Saints' payroll is horrendously bad.
I've heard it is,
but keep an eye out. But keep an eye out for Taysom Hill maybe joining Denver. I mean, they just signed another tight end. The Saints.
Wow.
Remember last year he was supposed to be a tight end, Taysom Hill. And now with so I can if they for some odd reason let Hill walk to go over to Denver, that would free up some money, but not D-Hop money.
Wow.
Okay.
The Saints would have to
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say you guys all had some.
The Saints would have to rob someone to be cap poor.
True. All some interesting picks for sure. I'm gonna take this a different route. I would like to see DeAndre Hopkins make a return to the AFC South, but not with the Houston Texans. My team is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that this would be great. I think this would be a great fit for him. The Jaguars traded for Calvin Ridley last year. Gambling, suspension, everything like that. They get him back. He's a really good receiver. But you can add him to that team with Trevor Lawrence in a relatively easy division. You got an established coach, Doug Peterson, who won a Super Bowl. Really did a great job when he came to Philadelphia, turning that team around. Came to Jacksonville, which was a mess, cleaning up the mess of Urban Meyer, turns them around. They're a division champion last year, going out against the Chiefs in the playoffs. So relatively easy division, warm weather, good coach, good young quarterback, easy path to the playoffs. I like DeAndre Hopkins in Jacksonville. So they can move some money around and figure it out. I think that would be a great fit.
25-1 for Jags. But you have to think about most of these teams that have payroll issues have had them, and there's no way to get out of them right now. So D-Hop is looking for a place now. That's why I think Detroit, Carolina, teams that could probably afford to have him for maybe a 1 or 2 year kind of deal will sit well. Not these teams like KC, Buffalo, Jacksonville, Saints. These teams, yeah, they're on their wish list and will be doing backflips for it, but they're just payroll strapped.
Well, okay, Ref, quick question for you, okay? So, D-Hop is 31 years old, and he's become a bit injury prone. And I know everyone else is saying, like, he's looking for, like, D-Hop money. At some point, when do you get realistic? You're 31 years old, you're injury prone, and if there's no suitors, when do you say, you know what, maybe I should bring it down a notch? Just like you said, he's looking for a home. He has to have a home first, So at what point do you get realistic, like, okay, I'm obviously not 22 years old no more. I've been banged up a couple of times. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. But you have to think about athletes are a different animal. I've met them, talked to them many times in Vegas sports books the many years I worked with. And you don't think D-Hop is sitting at home drinking some fine-ass wine, and then he gets a phone call from Odell, and he saw what Odell made? You think he's going to go back to reality and say, you know what, I just want to win a ship, or I just want a home? No, their egos, especially the wide receivers. We all know wide receivers, I think, have bigger egos at sometimes than quarterbacks.
Oh, easily.
Very true.
Well, Jay, I think you're completely wrong when you're saying
it just dawned on me, and it's kind of funny.
You're saying
you
DeAndre
cannot
Hopkins,
wide receiver without DID.
I think you're completely wrong about saying DeAndre Hopkins is injury prone, because only for one season of his career did he not play a full season. That was in 2021, where he had an injury. Last year, he missed time because he was suspended. For PEDs. But he had 717 yards in 9 games, roughly around 79, 80 yards a game. If you do the math, over a full season, that's kind of over a 1,300-yard pace. So DeAndre Hopkins is still a number 1 receiver in the league, and he is still one of the best wide receivers in the league. So I don't think there's any notion that he should be taking less money than what he's worth. And I think teams know that. So we'll have to see where he ends up, but I think that he definitely still has a lot to offer as of right now.
Cool.
All right, let's move on to some other stuff. So this is really interesting, what's going on with the Raiders and the Jimmy G situation. So Jimmy G had the foot injury, I believe it was, and he failed his physical. He's still apparently having issues with it. So there's actually a clause in this contract with the Raiders to where, if everything comes to worse, then they can actually move on from Jimmy G and not have to take any financial penalty for it. So are you guys surprised by this? And more so, are you surprised that more teams don't try to set up contracts like this? Because it doesn't seem like we see this very, very often. So do you think that more teams are going to try to do this kind of thing when they're signing a player that's coming off an injury to try to protect themselves from anything happening.
Who do you want to go first? Do you want me to go?
You can go, Will.
Okay, so I think teams need to start looking at this because Jimmy G is an older quarterback. He got hurt last year for San Francisco. And teams need to look at this, like, especially with the older quarterbacks like Jimmy G, who's been in the league for 10 plus years. And maybe like the Vikings with Kirk Cousins and other quarterbacks. Because it's a good thing to add into the contract because it's a worst case scenario thing. Like, worst case scenario, you get hurt again, we can just release you. And it's a big problem for the Raiders because you got two rookies behind it. You got Brian Hoyer, who's a bench piece always, and you got two rookies behind him. If I'm the Raiders, I look in the offseason. I don't think there's a lot of great QBs out there, but you know what? I think you need to look at, like, QBs who are backups. And, like, for example, I know he just got there, but I feel like here's three names I think they should go after. And this is my opinion. Mitchell Trubisky is probably not going to start over Pickett much longer. I would love to see Andy Dalton maybe as a rental. And then trying to think one more. 1 second.
Geez.
Maybe like a Tyrod Taylor. Because those two quarterbacks, you need someone to teach them. And if Jimmy G is injured in the sideline and you have Brian Hoyer, who is not a great starter at all, sat behind Brady for numerous years, and you got two rookie QBs, you want someone who can, like, push them and teach them more. So, yeah, I would definitely get another QB in there who knows the NFL real well. Like, not saying Hoyer doesn't, but he just doesn't bring that wow factor to say, oh my gosh, Devontae Adams is going to have another.
You know who can bring a wow factor to the Raiders?
So,
Carson Wentz, baby.
You know what? I think Carson Wentz, or you know what's another name?
Oh, man.
Well, you know I was being sarcastic, right?
I know. Another name who's out there is the Commanders are moving forward with Sam Howard. I would call, one sec, Dom. I would call the Raiders and say, hey, what do you want for Taylor Heineke?
Heineke.
Oh, wow.
So the main guy I would say is Heineke.
Pretty interesting. Raphael, what do you think?
I look at it as, first of all, the Raiders are minus $5 not to make the playoffs. So if you're sitting there in Vegas right now and you're getting ready to watch the best team in the state that people cheer for, the Golden Knights, not the Raiders, the Golden Knights, do you want to try to give up something for Tyler Heineke and these quarterbacks that have been in the league forever? Or you could just maybe tank for Caleb for USC and say, hey, you know what? We're not going anywhere. Keep Ryan Hoyer. Maybe grab a quarterback that got released during it. Because let's face it, Tom Brady's going to be there. The NFL owners are going to prove him to be some part of the ownership. And they're going to run a system. So maybe they just wait for Jimmy G to pass that physical because he knows the system that those two are going to want to run and not worry about paying for someone extra for a backup quarterback to ride the ship when you're not going to make the playoffs. Let's face it, they're not making the playoffs. Even if Tom Brady was there, they wouldn't make the playoffs because their team stinks. So I would say either ride what you have, maybe see if Jimmy G does pass it down the road, let Hoyer ride the ship, and look at some of these quarterbacks that are coming in, or start taking for Caleb.
Yeah.
Seems like a smart thing to do. We'll hit up Dom next. What do you think about
it's actually not
Raiders and contract?
I can see like there's merit to the points that Will and Raphael made. Trying to bring in someone else, I don't think there's anyone else out there that you could either make a trade for or sign or whatever. Like there's no long-term solution out there. Although Jimmy Garoppolo, even if he's healthy, is never a long-term team for a few years. But how many games is he going to miss? And when you're looking at, let's not forget, like you still have Deandre, you still have the current rushing king, albeit only for 1 year. But I've always been a big Josh Jacobs guy. So it's not, and their O-line is not as bad as people think. It's their defense that's atrocious, and they're obviously in a very tough division. But I don't know. It's another one of those scenarios. Like it's the same old story with Jimmy D. It's not if he gets hurt, it's when. And unlike when in San Francisco, when you have a perennially elite defense to keep you afloat while you run the ball and win close games, the Raiders have the worst defense in the NFL the last 5 years on average. The worst, like worst offense, worse than any other team that you could think of with just a absolutely. The Raiders are at the top of that list. I never necessarily liked that move of and look at the boat that they're in.
I would say keep it.
To me, it almost reeks of what I had said earlier about late stage senility, Al Davis.
If they do move anything forward and maybe they try to do something, then keep an eye out for Ryan Tannehill.
Pretty interesting.
True.
He's a free agent next year, so if he stinks it up this year, you can just let him walk.
Carson Wentz to the Raiders, that would definitely make me say, wow.
Yeah, if you want Devontae Adams to retire, but Jay, go ahead.
So apparently the Houston Texans have been getting suitors for a Davis Mills trade, and apparently the Raiders were one of those callers. So there's one right there. Although the front office said that he's unavailable in a swap, but a lot can happen between now and training camp. So we'll see. Outside of that, looking at the Raiders depth chart, who they have behind Jimmy Garoppolo is Chase Garbers, Aiden O'Connell, and some guy who's been hanging around the league named Brian Hoyer. He backed up Brady a little bit, started for Houston. So if I'm the Raiders and Jimmy G's unable to go this season at any point and he gets injured, I'm going the Raphael route, and I'll say, listen, if you can't get Mills, throw Hoyer in there, hope to win some games, or just tank for Caleb Williams.
I mean, there's no other option other than to tank for Caleb Williams.
Speaking of Aiden O'Connell,
nothing else even makes sense. I mean, the Raiders have nothing to play for.
Have you guys seen that meme about Aiden O'Connell?
Dumb, you must be on a delay.
No, he's not.
Okay.
But it's okay.
Maybe.
So what I was saying was it doesn't really make any sense for them to...
Have you seen the meme with the picture of Aiden O'Connell?
I think he is on a delay.
You gotta be on a delay.
Gotta be.
Could be my mic.
But anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. I say tank for Caleb Williams and do all that. That's
okay. And also, you need, if you're a Raider fan, you have to keep an eye out for out of the blue with the Tom Brady being a part owner and Davis. That's just telling me we can all know that LeBron James will own the NBA team in Las Vegas. So if you're Davis and you're on your way out and you don't have a son that's going to jump on ship to own it after you go sailing, you don't think you want to sell it to a guy who's the greatest NFL player of all time, Tom Brady, to try to compete with LeBron James going to Vegas to own an NBA team? So if that's the case, I can guarantee you there'll be no more Devontae Adams there. Jacobs will walk, and Brady and will want to bring in his whole crew in there.
Okay. Yeah. I can get behind that, yeah, 100%. But let's move on to our next topic. Our next topic is going to be, since it's OTAs, let's talk about players and storylines for the upcoming NFL season that we're interested in. I'll go ahead and go first on this one. I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns are going to be one of the most interesting teams to me because I'm looking at Deshaun Watson. Who obviously all the massage stuff, all the weird stuff going on around him. He gets suspended. He comes in last season, was really rusty, did not really look like himself. So with a full offseason, a full training camp with a new team, what is Deshaun Watson going to do? Because before all this stuff happened, Deshaun Watson was one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the NFL. His last season, I think he was the passing leader and 33 passing touchdowns. and that was after they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins. You know, he was throwing the ball around to a bunch of average receivers in his receiving corps. So I want to see if Deshaun Watson can get back to that level where he was at before. And if so, you look at the team that the Browns have over there. They have talent on their team. And the AFC North becomes a really interesting competitive division. The Bengals are most likely still the favorite, but I think the Browns can make noise if Deshaun plays well. And then you have the Ravens, you have the Steelers. I think the AFC North could end up being one of the most competitive divisions. But Deshaun Watson, I think he has to get back to the level that he used to be at.
So I'll go real quick. My thing is interesting because you look at the Titans. You drafted Malik Willis, played below average when he did play last year. And then you drafted Will Levis, who's going to be your successor when Tannehill leaves or retires. It's going to be interesting because you got Malik, who you traded up, you were high on, you wanted him, a really good dual threat quarterback. And then you got Will Levis, who likes mayonnaise with his coffee, Mr. Kentucky boy himself. Yes. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to the Titans this year and going forward to see who's going to be your number one quarterback. Who do you believe in most? Is it the guy Malik Willis you drafted first, or are you going to start Mr. Will Levis, who is a average?
Well, I think the obvious answer to that is no, Will, or they wouldn't have drafted Will Levis if they believed in Malik.
So, yeah, but I'm still interested to see what happens because you never know. Maybe Malik.
They have no confidence in Malik Willis.
Yeah, but true. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dom.
Things I'm most interested in are the current and former Green Bay Packers quarterbacks. I want to see just how horrible is Jordan Love and can Aaron Rodgers return to form? And my answers to those questions are pretty freaking horrible and probably not, because everything that I've read so far, I'm pretty sure when Aaron Rodgers took like his fourth step onto the practice field, walking towards the first huddle, he twisted his ankle. Someone else got hurt in Jets camp. Jordan Love looks exactly as terrible as everyone except Packer homers think that he is. It's going to be a long season in Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler's watching, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, because I was going to say the same thing. Sorry, Tyler. There's only so much that somebody can be lucky. And what I mean by that is the Packers fan base. They've had over 30 years of elite quarterback play. Now's going to see the drop-off. And Tyler, you even called it too, buddy. I don't know if Love is that guy. I don't know. Maybe there's a miraculous bolt of lightning. Someone used the Dragon Ball to save this man's career before it even began. I don't know, okay? But I just don't see it happening. The other storyline that I'm interested in, and he's going to be selfish and save that Dragon Ball for himself and his Eagles. But anyway, the other one I'm interested in is to see if the Titans will trade Derrick Henry. It is obvious that if no one sees it, I see it. They're blowing things up in Tennessee right now. This is a man that still has miles left on him. How much? I don't know. It's time that Derrick Henry actually goes to a contender and one where the load is not so much on his shoulders. There's only so much that you can depend on this man.
Buffalo, are you listening?
Yeah. There's only so much that, you can depend on him to give you like 200 yards a game. I know he plays the Texans twice a year, but I mean, that's a guaranteed 400 yards right there. But yeah, I think it's about time he goes to a contender.
Okay.
What I am looking forward, and I can't believe everyone's jonesing on OTAs, talking about OTAs. As Iverson says, we're talking about practice. Every time I turn my TV on, I'm seeing Anthony Richardson throw a ball in a net. thinking he's the greatest Indianapolis Colt quarterback that may ever live. We just talked about Malik Willis when we were just talking about a couple of years ago that he can maybe be the next elite quarterback scrambling out of the pocket, and he's probably going to be serving me my pizza in a couple of years at Pizza Huts, because these quarterbacks and these athletes that we talk about so much now when we're just talking about practice. I can't believe so much love on the Detroit Lions right now. The love, they're probably the biggest love and action we are getting in the book right now. And the disrespect the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting year after year. Their total season win is 8.5. All Steelers do is win 9, 10, or double-digit wins every year. I just can't understand on how people disrespect the Pittsburgh Steelers. And everyone wants to say, oh, the Bengals are going to win. Bengals don't win that division this year. I would not be shocked if the Bengals are last in that division this year. I think Pittsburgh will be a lot better. I think Cleveland's going to be a lot better because Watson's going to be around the boys all summer long and probably playing much better. And then we can all agree that the Ravens are probably going to be much better because the quarterback issue is now put to bed. He's there. They're improving. Hopefully he has some stars to throw it to. But I just don't understand so much love for OTAs when we should be talking about the Stanley Cup, the NBA playoffs. CFL starts next week, boys. You know, CFL starts next week. Let's talk about CFL. But we have to talk to OTAs. Man.
Talking about practice, man.
Who's the favorites to win the Grey Cup?
You know the reason why we're not talking about the CFL, Raf? Because the Jacksonville Jaguars could beat the Toronto Argonauts. That's why.
The Blue Bombers. No one could beat the Blue Bombers. The Jacksonville won't beat the Blue.
Yeah.
Jacksonville won't beat Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They're the favorite right now. But keep an eye out for the BC Lions. I will go on record
as having 10 years ago that the NFL should have linked up with the CFL year and started running pro football in North America like soccer does in Europe, relegation. You finish dead last, you don't get the number 1 pick. You go to the CFL and you stay there until you win a Grey Cup.
I agree. And that's why the XFL is probably that's why I think the XFL is probably going to be the AAA of the NFL. You're going to start seeing the XFL. Just no disrespect to USFL. USFL has better TV ratings. I think a little bit better athletes, but I'm sorry. If you're the NFL, you want to hang out with The Rock. You don't want to hang out with the guys from the USFL. So I would keep an eye out for the XFL and the NFL probably jointing, and that'd be their AAA. Look at Benucci, who has the best Italian restaurant. Now, forget quarterback, open up an Italian place. He's already signed an NFL contract.
Yep, he's in Denver. Only thing is I don't know because The Rock, you know, like Dwayne Johnson and Danny Garcia, they take so much pride in the XFL and having owning it and running everything. I don't know if they sell to the. I mean, what do you think? What do you think? How many years? About 5, 7 years?
That they're going to hang, or that they'll be around.
Anything can be bought for the right price.
Before they sell to the NFL, if they do.
I think the merger of the XFL and USFL will happen before the NFL goes into their AAA.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Because I'm hearing the Endeavor people who own UFC and bought WWE are looking into maybe buying some of the stock if that happens, and they would want to merge the USFL and the XFL, and that's a big entity.
Okay. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Why is John on our thing have to mediocrity in Pittsburgh? He's still mad that the Miami Heat lost yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Shots fired at John Shear. Can Phantom be bought for the right price? Would you switch?
Anyone that thought Miami was winning the game was foolish.
That's something completely different, John.
Speaking of the
not for every penny of Jerry Jones.
He doesn't even. John is trying to troll right now, so it is.
Real quick, I know this is an NFL show. Raphael, how many games does the NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs does Vegas have for each?
NHL, we have most people are betting 6 or 7. I think if you kind of look at it and what you saw last night in the NBA, if Miami doesn't win game 2, it would not shock me if the sweep comes out. I'm hearing sometime tonight around 9:00 Eastern Standard Time. The ratings for last night's game should be out, and that's gonna tell me if they won 4, 5, or 6 or 7. Maybe the sweep.
I could see 5. I can see 5. Just some
5.
And like I told John, South Beach will bring a trophy home. And it's hard for me to say that, but I think I think Florida beats the Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup.
Who do you have in the NBA playoffs?
I said whoever won. I said that with John. Whoever won Game 1 wins the NBA playoffs, and Nuggets won yesterday. So I think Denver in 5.
Denver's a team of destiny. Yeah, I agree. Back to you, James.
I lost my train of thought, so
because we talked about NBA.
I don't
and
know
NHL.
what I don't know what we have planned for the non-sports topic, so I'm just going to turn it over.
Should we give Raphael a choice? No, okay.
Oh, that's it. I thought you saw it, and then okay. Well,
there it is.
So for our non-sports topic, one of us on this panel, Dom DeRubeis, just celebrated a birthday. So, happy 53rd birthday! Happy 53rd birthday to Dom DeRubeis with your old ass. And in honor of his birthday, the non-sports topic is: what's the best birthday cake or meal you have ever gotten? Let's start with Will. Kick it off, man.
So I'm gonna kick it first to a meal, and then what kind of cake. I love, and this is what I did as a kid, was hibachi. Love hibachi food. Love Japanese food. When they cook in front of you, it smells good. You get the noodles, you get the rice, you get the sauce, you get the shrimp, either steak or chicken, and then the cake. I like the chocolate cake, but the cake.
Guy, keep going.
So the cake.
The backstory very quickly. I eat stove lasagna Thanksgiving one year when I lived in Florida, and watched the Lions get jail sexed by the Colts. Not the best Thanksgiving I ever had. But keep going, Will.
So the last thing is the cake I get is a cookie cake. I love a good cookie cake. Go ahead, birthday boy.
All right, Dom.
Best cake is cheesecake, made by my lovely mother Carol's own 2 hands. Best birthday meal I ever had. One time in my life, I think it was when I turned 10, she made me homemade ravioli. Never before, never since. I bring it up every year. It hasn't happened. It probably never will. She's been retired for 6 or 7 years. She still won't do it.
What did you do for your birthday?
Sad state of affairs, but yeah, cheesecake, homemade ravioli. Not close. I just met my folk treat like a little bar and grill. I wanted a Caesar burger. Have you guys ever had a Caesar burger?
No.
Yes.
Burger patty.
That's the type I'm thinking.
Bob Seger burger?
Mustard cheese. Yeah. Burger patty, croutons, mustard cheese, romaine lettuce, tomato and onion if you want, and Caesar dressing. No mustard, no ketchup, no mayo. They wouldn't even make it for me because they don't have Caesar dressing anymore. They don't even have romaine lettuce. Apparently, COVID hit Sheehan's Bar and Grill pretty hard.
Damn. What about you, Jack?
Birthday meal. It wasn't necessarily a meal or anything. Back in 2015, like we had a huge barbecue and everything, and me being, of course, from Texas and a barbecue fan, that's always welcome on someone's birthday. But the best cake I ever had was that day. So basically, the cake was like it was the top half of a Texans cheerleader. So it had like the boobs, and then it had the top, and it had a Texans logo, and then it had like the bottom part of the and of course the colored icing and everything, and it even came with a belly button, a diamond belly button on the cake. So so that was always great. Ralph, what you got?
Let's see, I'm a twin, so I always had to have someone else's meal with my meals because my mom always had to make the same meal. So I'm a big foodie. Me and my wife, we try to pick a different restaurant every year and try to I have no kids, so we try to pick something kind of fancy and try to try something new. That excites me just to try something new year after year after year. So, but my favorite cakes were on my birthday, my brother got a pistachio cake and I got a blueberry cheesecake. So it was the best of both worlds. I got to eat 2 desserts for my birthday. And I turned 50 this year. So I'm hoping to get something. I'm hoping to get maybe both pistachio and a cheesecake this year.
Heck yeah.
All right.
Pretty awesome.
And last, James.
Well, I mean, I might as well go straight to the meal because my favorite kind of cake. I mean, we're on TV. My favorite kind of cake we're not allowed to discuss on the air, so I'll leave it at that. But I'm gonna go to Texas Roadhouse because I love Texas Roadhouse. I love the steak and a baked potato from there. The challenging thing about going to Texas Roadhouse, though, is how much can you resist the bread and not eat the whole basket of bread before you make yourself full before your actual food comes. So exactly. I like Texas Roadhouse. That's my spot.
Sir.
Well, guess we can wrap it up, man.
Okay, does anybody want to say where you can find each other on social media or like what you guys do? Ralph, Will?
Ralph, you can go ahead.
You can find me everywhere. You can find me on Twitter at VSI.sports. You can find me on my website that I created. You can bet that all the crazy bet odds that I put out there. I'm the guy that had to watch the spelling bee yesterday to put because I had odds on would a winner have glasses or would a winner be wearing braces. I'm the one to get all that. So I'm actually working on movie odds right now as we're talking. So you can check that website, and you can also find all my odds over at BetUS, MyBookie.ag, and DocSports.com.
All right. Well, real quick, 30 seconds.
Sunday night Basket Bros, and then Wednesday nights you can find me on Smoking Jeremy B's NFL Roundtable.
All right.
All right, guys. All of us at Sideline Sports, everyone from the Gauntlet team, we want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight, and we will see you guys next Friday.